Alongside our front office insider, Amin Al-Hassan, and former #1 overall pick in the WNBA draft. Chiney, you're even taller in the studio than usual. Chiney Ogwumike. I love these big monitors. This is exciting. Coming up in a few moments, Trae Young is going to join the show. He's going to talk about the big moves the Hawks made this offseason. And he's got a very special announcement to share with us. Stick around for that. First, though, we begin today's show with the latest from Rockets training camp. As we have discussed here on The Jump, James Harden back in Houston and has begun COVID testing protocols so he can eventually participate in Rockets team practice. He was, of course, absent for the start of training camp in places like Atlanta for Lil Baby's birthday party, reportedly sighted around Las Vegas for his own party. I don't know. It's reported, of course, that he would like to be traded out of Houston to a, quote, contending team. Meanwhile, the Rockets have continued to make alterations to their roster. Of course, the huge trade with Russell Westbrook going to Washington for John Wall, adding Boogie Cousins, adding Christian Wood. And Tillman Fertitta got on CNBC yesterday, the Rockets owner, and said, "We've done nothing but gotten better in the offseason." So Chiney is an H-Town native. Do you buy Fertitta's comments?
Look,
that face is amazing,
probably,
my
as
friend.
I always say, from the 281, the 713, the 832, I always am proud to be Houston Texan. But when I heard those comments, I was a little shocked just because it seems like a smoke screen. Like there's smoke there, like Cap. Like this is not the truth necessarily. And maybe this is what he wants us to be and say, oh my goodness, everything's going to be all right. But when there's smoke, right, a smoke screen, there's usually a fire. And it seems like the Rockets are on fire, not the best way. The way I see this really is just that you can't hide from the facts. You know, you do have someone that wants to be there in John Wall, who after injury is going to be on a mission to prove himself, especially with his contract. But overall, the Rockets, they've been moving the last few years with a walking bucket, James Harden, but they haven't been operating with the identity that they needed to find success that will keep him there, which is why he's looking elsewhere.
To be fair, Rachel, that longer conversation in that interview, he says a lot of the right things about how James wants to win a championship and how Tillman hopes that it's going to be in Houston where they think they have a chance to do that. And that's all the good kind of cleanup talk you do. That's what you say in public. Behind closed doors, obviously, is a different story. But to say that this team got better, I mean, either you're delusional or you're just really bad at lying. Either way, that doesn't help. You don't need to go that far. He could have stopped at just, hey, we want to win a championship. James wants to win a championship. We'll get it done. But to say that out loud just indicates a complete unnecessary understanding of what's happening. When you think about trading Russell Westbrook, an all-NBA player, who you gave up 8 billion first-round picks to get a year later for a guy who hasn't played in 2 years, and you got 1 first-round pick for that in compensation. There's no way you could tell me that's an upgrade. Even if John Wall is the John Wall that we remember from 2 years ago, he's still not as good as Russell Westbrook is right now.
Chiney, we haven't had you on since the trade, Wall and Westbrook. As a Houston native, how do you feel?
Honestly, I'm emotionally numb. I'm rooting for John Wall. He, as someone who has come back from injuries myself,
right.
I think a lot of times you have this mission to prove that you are just as good, if not better, than you were before. And I think he will have that motivation. And really, given what he's gone through recently, a fresh start is good for him. But overall, for the organization, a lot of the moves, I feel like we're trying to just attach ourselves to value, not necessarily a mission or an identity. Because for the last few years, we've been centered upon analytics and shooting more threes and going in isolation. But as a team sport where teams win through collaboration, that's sort of where we've let the numbers do the talking instead of the players. And I think that's all James has said. I want a voice in how this thing moves forward. So it is frustrating to witness, but I do think John Wall still provides value in the NBA. We'll see how far he defies expectation.
And we'll see how long it takes him, right? We saw with Paul George, Gordon Hayward, guys who miss a significant amount of time. Even if they can stay healthy through the next season when they come back, they're not quite always themselves right away. But John's had more time off than most. We'll have to see how that affects him. I want to get to the other side of the whole Rockets-Nets equation because Kevin Durant spoke to the media today, and he was, of course, asked about James Harden. Take a look at this.
We all know all these James Harden rumors are out there. And he's been your teammate in the past. What do you think about him and what he might bring if they were to trade for him?
I don't think about James Harden at all. I mean, he doesn't play on our team.
I mean, I don't think about him. I don't think about him. I mean, I just don't. Where's the best landing spot, Harden, then, long term? Do you think it is Brooklyn? Do you think it's Philadelphia? Or do you think it's best for him to stay in Houston?
Rachel, if I could, I want to go off the board, and I'm going to say Golden State is the best landing spot for him. Hear me out, right? One of the things that Houston wants in return is high-value assets. We know in the conversations with Brooklyn, while we love Karis LeVert, Spencer Dinwiddie's a solid player, Jared Allen's a nice big, those aren't high-value players the way that Houston wants in return. Golden State is one of the few locations in the league that can offer high-value assets and still give James Harden a realistic chance of winning a championship. Obviously, without Klay Thompson, that task is a little harder, but I think he fits in with what they would be building towards the future. And it would cost them, obviously, that Minnesota pick next year, very lightly protected. It would probably cost them James Wiseman, who, of course, they love and fits a need for them right now. But the ability to say Curry, Harden, Klay, Draymond as your top four, that's pretty hard to say no to if you're Golden State.
Look, Amin, I'm actually not mad at that. Okay, I'm going to probably stick with something that was on the board, but when you talk about Golden State, I think people don't give Steph Curry too much accolades in this regard, in the sense that he's probably one of the most low-maintenance superstars. He had no problem taking more so a media backseat to Kevin Durant and letting him shine, knowing that he is unguardable at 7 feet and one of the best offensive players in the game. So I'm not mad at you, Amin. I will say, though, when it comes to James Harden, I think it's been clear that the Rockets, there are many attempts to find a partner in crime for James Harden. Like, that time has expired, unfortunately. And plus, with fairly new ownership, a new GM, he needs a partner in crime. And I think now that the Nets are like a no-go, or I forgot who it was. Like, I don't know that woman. Was it J-Lo?
Right.
I think stuff like Mariah Carey once said that to J-Lo. Right? That's the vibes that I get watching that. It was Mariah Carey. Seeing big picture here, I think the 76ers could be really interesting, considering his former GM is there in Daryl Morey. Plus, that gives him a good chance to win, contend. And I do like the idea of James Harden and Joel Embiid together, because Joel Embiid will give you, 23 and 12 in the paint. And James can give you 30 from the perimeter. Now, I know there will have to be a sweetener. I don't know if you can keep all the players in Philly, but I do see that working in Philly, James and Joel tag teaming. Even though Golden State, that was off the board, I'm not mad at it. I am looking at the 76ers and also Meek Mill's Instagram, since we're already talking musicians.
Absolutely. Well, there's a video clip of the woman giving like a deposition or something, and she's like, I'm sorry, I do not know that man. I do not know that man. And that's what I heard
Kiki
today.
Palmer.
Right.
This man.
It's Kiki Palmer. Shout out to Kiki. But Rachel, I do want to point out something. We mentioned Houston as a possibility. I think that thing is burnt. And this is very similar to what happened in Minnesota a few years ago, 2 years ago, however, 100 years ago now with this pandemic, with Jimmy Butler. And believe it or not, I think Jimmy and James Harden are doing the same exact thing. The difference is Jimmy's very confrontational, in-your-face style was to show up to practice, humiliate everybody, and then go do a sit-down interview with you afterwards, reiterating a desire to get traded. James is not confrontational like that. His way is to not show up, but then very publicly show why he's not showing up. It's not because he's working out at some gym somewhere. It's because he's going out and partying. He's making it clear to the Houston Rockets, who foolishly announced, we're prepared for things to get uncomfortable. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what uncomfortable looks like. And to be honest with you, other than the whole global pandemic, being at a party with no mask thing, that's the only part I have a problem with. But people say this time and time again about NBA players. Oh, that's unprofessional. You should have showed up. You should have done this. No, because he professionally asked to be traded weeks ago, and they did not follow through on it. So the next thing you do as an NBA player is you get their attention. And you get their attention by making things real uncomfortable, and that's what Harden did.
Well, yeah, but I'm not sure we can expect the franchise to make a bad trade. If a good trade hasn't been available for him, does he have the right to not show up to the beginning of training camp if they just decided, well, we're not going to make a bad trade, we're still looking?
I would say that you at this point, when you say that, you are taking that they're going in good faith trying to move him. And players
you don't
know,
think
and
that
their
they
agents know. Whether it's obviously he doesn't. It doesn't matter what I think.
Right.
He and his agent don't believe that the Rockets are trying their hardest.
I don't think he has a day-to-day agent right now, which may be part of all of the mechanics of this too, because we all know how trades get baked in the NBA. We will, of course, continue to follow this situation very, very closely. And the bottom line is that James Harden has shown up. I want to make that clear. He's not out right now. He has shown up and he is going through the COVID protocol. So he is not holding out in any way right now.